Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game preview. Everton travelling to Craven Cottage tomorrow evening to face Fulham. 7:45 kickoff. The Premier League is back. Feels like a long time since we said those words. Obviously, the draw with Aston Villa being Everton's last Premier League game and a number of FA Cup games in between that. And the reason I say the Premier League is back is because this is where it becomes important now, doesn't it? We're out of both domestic cup competitions. Defeats to Fulham and Luton respectively mean that the only thing Everton have got to focus on between now and May is staying in the Premier League, and that makes games like this one tomorrow hugely important, and that makes games like Saturday against Luton seem even more confusing when you think about the amount of players that were left on the pitch for as long as they were, despite the fact they were clearly needing of a bit of a rest. This will be tough. Fulham obviously have beaten us twice already this season, both times at Goodison Park, the most recent of which, of course, being that Carabao Cup quarter-final not so long ago, in which they beat us on penalties. The game that really started the downfall of this side, didn't it? You know, we were doing well before then. We were picking up some good results, picking up some good wins, doing well away and at home. And then after then, we've been absolutely horrific. Only one win since that game, and it was, of course, that replay against Crystal Palace a couple of weeks or so. So this will be, without a shadow of a doubt, a difficult game. Fulham not doing great at the moment in the Premier League. They sit 13th in the table, 24 points, of course, 7 points above Everton, 7 wins, 3 draws, and 11 defeats for them, which actually means they would be 3 points below Everton if the points deduction, of course, had not happened. Difficult second season for Marco Silva, of course, although they should have more than enough to steer them away from any talk of relegation come the end of the season. We know the quality that this Fulham side have got to offer. Players like Raul Jimenez, of course, who has not had a great start to his Fulham career, but is definitely a goal scorer and a Premier League goal scorer and somebody that causes a threat. Willian, of course, who's done well there. João Palhinha, who's probably their standout player. Andres Pereira as well in there. Alex Iwobi and Anthony Robinson, who, of course, we know from their times at Everton Football Club. Players like Harry Wilson, players like Harrison Reed, players that are in there and can cause issues. Harrison Reed specifically being one that I remember from the I believe it was the Carabao Cup quarter-final at Goodison, where he just looked so comfortable in the middle of the park. He just looked so unopposed, and that is something that we absolutely cannot do tomorrow even, and we cannot make the same mistake of leaving players like Harrison Reed, who are good quality Premier League midfielders, unopposed in the middle of the park with all the time in the world and all the space and room to do what they want. This is big. This is really big for Everton tomorrow. When you look at the Premier League table, we are only a point outside of that relegation zone. Luton currently sit 18th on 16 points. Everton sit 17th on 17 points, of course. Burnley 12 and Sheffield United 10. So there is only 7 points that separates Sheffield United from Everton. And in this day and age, that isn't an awful lot whatsoever. 7 points can be made up in fairly quick time, and it makes sort of every game from now and the end of the season infinitely more important than what it would have been had we have not had that points deduction. You think of some of the fixtures we've got coming up. We've got this one tomorrow. We've then got Spurs at home on Saturday. We then have Manchester City away, Crystal Palace at Goodison, Brighton away, West Ham at Goodison, United away. So we've got a number of away fixtures coming up, which it's very realistic that Everton may not win any of those games. I mean, Manchester City away is incredibly difficult. Brighton away, I know we done brilliantly there last year, but notoriously a very difficult place to go. Manchester United away, we never do well there. So we've got a number of really difficult games coming up, and it means this one tomorrow against the side that aren't doing great at the moment, that they're doing okay, and obviously they seem to have our number at the moment because they've beaten us twice at Goodison Park, but this is an opportunity for us to go out there and beat a side that aren't in great form. Haven't had a particularly great time of late. I mean, you look at their recent fixtures, they lost 2-0 to Newcastle in the fourth round of the FA Cup. Obviously, they were defeated by Liverpool in the Carabao Cup semi-final across 2 legs and knocked out of that competition. They lost the derby to Chelsea the week before that. And then before that in the Premier League, they beat Fulham, which was a big result, but lost to Bournemouth, lost to Burnley. Obviously lost to Newcastle before that quarter-final at Goodison as well. So they've not had the greatest of a few weeks. Fulham, they've had a decent result sprinkled amongst some really, really poor results, and there's definitely I think a feeling there that they need to start picking it up and they need to start improving, in case they do get dragged into a battle that they don't want to be dragged into. But I suppose the onus and the responsibility is on Everton tomorrow to turn up and try and replicate what we've done so well in so many away games this season. You think back to West Ham away, you think back to Forest away, you think back to Burnley away, Palace away. A number of those games where Everton have turned up. Not so much Palace. Palace away was a bit more of a back and forth, but certainly Burnley, Forest, West Ham games like that where Everton have turned up and they've turned up with a game plan, they've turned up with a strategy, and we've been able to we've been able to successfully perform that game plan and stop the opposition from creating anything of any real note, and we've been able to go and create chances and put them in the back of the net at the other end, and that sounds so easy and it sounds so simple, but it's evidently not simple and easy, because otherwise every Premier League team would do so. But what confidence I have got going into this game is the fact that Sean Dyche has been able to get Everton winning these types of games away from home. Last season and the season before, I'd have had absolutely no hope whatsoever with a game like this, because Everton were just absolutely horrific and hopeless away from home, and we never used to win any away game. I think we won 2 last season and we won 2 the season before, which is 4 across 2 seasons, which is absolutely disgraceful. I think we've won more than that already this season. So yes, that does give me a little bit of confidence that the manager has before gone out in these circumstances against sides that you've thought, oh, we might struggle there, and we've managed to go out and win the game quite convincingly. Obviously, the big difference tomorrow is the fact that this squad of players at the moment looks absolutely goosed. For lack of a better phrase, it looks out on its feet at the moment, because we haven't got enough quality in the squad to rotate, and the manager clearly doesn't trust some of the younger players or some of the fringe players. So it means that the same players are starting week in, week out, and ultimately the effects of that are on show. You only have to go and watch Everton's last 3 performances to see how badly we're playing at the moment and how flat it is and how demotivating it is. And I think that's because a lot of these players are absolutely flat on their backs, and obviously injuries have an effect on this one as well. Everton are without Abdoulaye Doucouré for this one, Everton are without Seamus Coleman for this one, and Everton are without Andre Gomes for this one. And whilst Andre Gomes is absence may not necessarily be the end of the world, the absence of Abdoulaye Doucouré specifically is, because the facts are the facts. And I think since he joined Everton Football Club in 2020, which is 4 years ago, I think we've only won 4 games of football in which he hasn't featured, and it was 3 prior to the game against Crystal Palace last week. That was the 4th game Everton had won without Abdoulaye Doucouré being in this side in the 4 years that he's been here. Now that is a terrifying stat. If you want a terrifying stat, there it is, right at you. Everton have won only 4 games when Abdoulaye Doucouré has not been a member of the squad since he joined the football club 4 years ago. So his absence is obviously a huge issue, and not only because of the quality that he brings, and not only because obviously he's our best player at the moment, and that is just a matter of fact, but also because of the stability he brings to the side and of the structure he brings to the team as well. When Abdoulaye Doucouré is not there, the whole team changes, because we're unable to play the system and the formation that the manager wants to play to the way he wants to play it. Yes, we can squeeze Dan Human in there, or you could squeeze Jack Harrison in there, or whatever you want, and you may get a capable performance, but it will be nowhere near as good as what it is when Abdoulaye Doucouré's in there, and most of the time it's nowhere near good enough to win games of football either. So the whole system has to change, which is exactly what we saw on Saturday against Luton. No Gomez, no Doucouré, no Garnagay, of course. So the whole system had to change because we only had 2 fit first team midfielders. So then we went with 2 up front, which didn't work and won't work because neither of those 2 strikers are capable of playing in a 2 up front, in my opinion, and the pair of them haven't got a partnership. So therefore it isn't going to work. So you then start to ask the question, well, what does the manager do? And I think the manager's forced into making changes going into this one tomorrow. I don't think he can go with the same starting 11 that played in the same formation that played against Luton because it didn't work. And it doesn't work, especially not away from home. So that means we're either going to go back to the 4-4-1-1, if you like, and somebody else is going to have to fill in that Abdoulaye Doucouré role, or he may go with a 5 at the back, which is another option. I don't want him to go with a 5 at the back because, as I've said numerous times on this channel before, I've watched Everton play 5 at the back numerous times in my lifetime, and I can count on one hand how many times we've played it well. But I also understand people would say, yeah, but you've also seen the 4-4-1-1 with somebody in that 10 that isn't Doucouré, and it's not work. So I get it. It's difficult decisions for Sean Dyche tomorrow. It's difficult decisions, but what isn't difficult is to understand the importance of this game, and this game is hugely, hugely important, and it's one that Everton absolutely have to go out and get something out of. We're in a little bit of a bad run of form at the moment, and the confidence is very clearly low, and the belief amongst the fans about the club is on its arse as well. And whilst I don't speak for every Evertonian, of course I don't. I know from speaking to my friends and speaking to my family that there's a lot of people that are in the same situation as me who just feel like, what's the point anymore? What's the point? Because everything just seems to be collapsing in front of our very own eyes. So what motivation have we got to get to Goodison Park or travel up and down the country to go and watch Everton? But the reality is we have to, because it's our football club and that's what we do. And as I said, everybody's got their own reasons. I spoke a little bit about mine in our previous video. Go and check that out, by the way, the review to the Luton game after this one if you haven't already. But yeah, it is a difficult situation for the manager, and he's coming up against a team that, as I said, have got quality there and have showed that already against Everton twice this season in 2 games. But it's also a Fulham side that are there for the taking, and have shown multiple times this season, both at Craven Cottage and away from home, but certainly at Craven Cottage, that they can lose games of football. They lost to Burnley at Craven Cottage just before Christmas. They lost to Bournemouth. Okay, that was away from home, but they lost to Bournemouth on Boxing Day. They've lost to Newcastle at Craven Cottage over the last week or so. So they've shown that they can lose games of football, and they're more than capable of putting in a poor performance. But it's up to Everton to be able to exploit that, and probably more so to the point, it's up to Everton to try and get that out of them. We can't really turn up on the hope that this Fulham team will have an off day. It's up to us to play that well that we almost forced them into having an off day. The likelihood of that happening is not very high, of course, but who knows? Look, I'd be lying if I was to say I've got a massive amount of confidence going into this one. I really would, because I haven't. And the reason I haven't is because I just think the manager at the moment is being a little bit safe. And I don't blame him for that, and I'm not having a go with him. I completely understand and agree that the squad at the moment is wafer thin. It's on its arse. I get it, and I agree with it 100%. But I don't think it's being helped by the same players playing week in, week out, despite the fact that they're clearly on their arse and despite the fact that they're not playing well. I just don't think that particularly helps the situation whatsoever. And I'm worried that we will see the same starting 11 tomorrow that we saw against Luton on Saturday, and then I'm worried that the outcome will be very similar to the one that we saw on Saturday, because, as I said, the players just look completely out on their feet at the moment. But it isn't beyond the realms of possibility to expect Everton to go out and be able to replicate the type of performance we put in against Burnley or Forest or West Ham, and we need it. we really, really, really do need it, because when you look at some of our fixtures coming up, like Manchester City away, even Spurs at home is an incredibly difficult fixture on Saturday, Brighton away, United away, we've got to start picking up points. We really, really have to start picking up points, and this, again, whilst I appreciate it won't be the easiest game in the world, it certainly presents itself as an opportunity to pick up some really, really important points. So anyway, let's get into our predicted starting 11, brought to you, of course, by FanHub. As always, if you haven't downloaded the FanHub app, please do go down below and download it. It's completely free. Follow us over there at TheMightyBlues as well. That would mean a huge amount to me. Yeah, let's jump straight into it. We'll move the positions around a little bit because I expect it to be a 4-4-1-1. He may well go with 5 at the back. It wouldn't surprise me. He's done it before, so it really wouldn't surprise me. But I'm going to go with the hope that he doesn't, because I don't think I want to see Everton play 5 at the back ever again. In goal, I'm going to go with Jordan Pickford. Obviously, hasn't played for a while, Jordan, because we've had numerous FA Cup fixtures and League Cup fixtures on the spin, which means obviously João Virginia's played, and João's done well. He's done well, João. He's made some really, really good saves, really big saves. He's had some good moments. I don't blame him for either of the goals that Everton conceded on the weekend. But he is not the number one goalkeeper. Jordan Pickford is our number one, and we have to make sure we don't forget that this is a goalkeeper that has kept Everton in the Premier League twice over the last 2 years, so with huge saves and match-winning moments. So for me, Jordan's the number one. João's done well, and fair play to him, absolutely fair play to him, and he's proven that he's a good, solid backup goalkeeper, which is great, and means that we don't have to go out and buy one, but Jordan's the number one, and therefore Jordan should start. Left back, I am going to go with Vitaly Mykolenko. Yeah, I don't think he was as good against Luton as what he has been of late, but ultimately he still has been very, very consistent this season. He's been one of Everton's standout performers, if not our best performer. And yeah, I think I don't think he deserves much stick whatsoever, although he wasn't great on Saturday. I don't think he deserves much stick whatsoever. Centre-back partners then, I am going to go with Jared Branthwaite and James Tarkowski. Again, I don't think either of whom were hugely fantastic against Luton. However, as we've already established numerous times before, these are Everton's 2 centre-backs. Whether it be the FA Cup, whether it be the Carabao Cup, whether it be the League, or whether it be a friendly down the road, these are Everton's 2 centre-backs, and they start week in, week out, and there's no reason that should change. Right back, I'm going to go with... Do you know what? I'm going to go with Ashley Young. I don't think Seamus Coleman will be available. The manager seems to suggest that Seamus Coleman won't be available for this one. And obviously, Ashley Young was on the bench on Saturday and didn't come on because he'd played 75 minutes prior in the under-23s the day before. I think he was waiting for this game for Ashley Young. Patterson has been all right of late. I don't think he's been as horrendous as some people seem to suggest he's been, but I also don't think he's been a standout or particularly great. And that, for me, means that the first opportunity the manager gets to change it, he will. And I think we'll see Ashley Young back in there at right back. Into the midfield then, once again, same conversation we were having not so long ago when we were speaking about the Luton game. James Garner, Amadou Onana, there's not really anybody else. Is there? There's not really anybody else to go in there. I'll be perfectly honest. Yeah, I just don't see a world in where it's not those two in midfield. Wingers then. Do you know what? I'm gonna go with what I think he will go with, and I think he will go with Dwight McNeil that side. And I think he will go with Jack Harrison that side. For me, I wouldn't. I'd go with Lewis Dobbin on one of the wings, and I'd take one of those two out because I think they look absolutely shattered and absolutely void of any confidence and momentum at the moment. But Oh, the Blues says he said Young was a doubt because it's too early. Well, if it is, then it'll be Patterson, won't it? But if Young is available, I think Young will start. Yeah, I just think he will go with those two wingers. I just don't think he will make that change. I'd like to see him do it, but I don't think he will. Number 10, then, here's where the change does have to be made. I think he's got to go with Danjuma. At some point, you've got to give him an opportunity. You've got to start him. There's nobody else that can play in that 10 unless you put Harrison in there and then you maybe put Danjuma out wide. Either way, Danjuma's got to be in this team tomorrow. And if he isn't in this team, then it's very clear that the manager's doing everything to keep him out the team, which for me is a bit silly. I know he's not great, and I'm not saying he's been brilliant, and I'm not saying he deserves to start week in, week out, but we're on our arse at the moment, and he's a player with ability. So he should be in there. And then I've gone with Calvert-Lewin up front. Again, I don't think either of the two strikers were particularly any good against Luton, but I think Calvert-Lewin is the better of the two. And therefore, if we're playing a single formation, I think he plays up front. There you go then. That is our predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do go and follow us over on FanHub if you haven't already. That would mean a huge, huge amount to me as well. And we'll obviously be following everybody back over there. So don't worry. But yeah, as I said, once again, not many options the manager can go with. And, you know, even if that starting 11 isn't right, it will only be one or two players wrong because there's no other options. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. Difficult game, one that we can win and one that really we absolutely need to get something out of because things are bleak at the moment. And as I said before, the only way we can change that is by winning games of football. So, there you go. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. We will be back with the instant match reaction and player ratings tomorrow directly after the game. So don't forget to look out for those. But until then, big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you after.